in slowly but steadily like the rising tide through breaches in a dike that men have thought secure. But the mind and will of the black captain were bent wholly on the falling city, and as yet no tidings came to him warning that his designs held any flaw. After a while the king led his men away somewhat eastward, to come between the fires of the siege and the outer fields. Still they were unchallenged, and still Theoden gave no signal. At last he halted once again. The city was now nearer. A smell of burning was in the air, and a very shadow of death. The horses were uneasy, but the king sat upon Snowmane, motionless, gazing upon the agony of Minas Tirith, as if stricken suddenly by anguish or by dread. He seemed to shrink down, cowed by age. Merry himself felt as if a great weight of horror and doubt had settled on him. His heart beat slowly. Time seemed poised in uncertainty. They were too late. Too late was worse than never. Perhaps Theoden would quail, bow his old head, turn, slink away to hide in the hills. Then suddenly Merry felt it at last, beyond doubt, a change. Wind was in his face. Light was glimmering. Far, far away in the south the clouds could be dimly seen as remote grey shapes rolling up, drifting. Morning lay beyond them. But at that same moment there was a flash, as if lightning had sprung from the earth beneath the city. For a searing second it stood dazzling far off in black and white, its topmost tower like a glittering needle. And then as the darkness closed again, there came rolling over the fields a great boom. At that sound the bent shape of the king sprang suddenly erect. Tall and proud he seemed again, and rising in his stirrups he cried in a loud voice more clear than any there had ever heard a mortal man achieve before. Arise, arise, riders of Theoden! Fell leads await fire and slaughter. Spear shall be shaken, shield be splintered, sword day, red day ere the sun rises. Ride now, ride to Gondor! With that he seized a great horn from Guzlach, his banner bearer, and he blew such a blast upon it that it burst asunder. And straightway all the horns in the host were lifted up in music, and the blowing of the horns of Rohan in that hour was like a storm upon the plain, and a thunder in the mountains. Ride now, ride to Gondor! Suddenly the king cried to Snowmane, and the horse sprang away. Behind him his banner blew in the wind, white horse upon a field of green, but he outpaced it. After him thundered the knights of his house, but he was ever before them. Elmer rode there, the white horse tail on his helm, floating his speed. And the front of the first Aelred roared like a breaker foaming to the shore, but Theoden could not be overtaken. Fey he seemed, nor the battle fury of his fathers ran like new fire in his veins. And he was born upon Snowmane like a god of old, even as Orome the Great in the battle of the Valar when the world was young. His golden shield was uncovered, and lo, it shone like an image of the sun, and the grass flamed into green above the white feet of his steed. For morning came, morning in a wind from the sea, and darkness was removed, and the hosts of Mordor wailed, and the terror overtook them, and they fled and died, and the hoofs of wrath rode over them. And then all the host of Rohan burst into song, and they sang as they slew, for the joy of battle was on them, and the sound of their singing that was fair and terrible came even to the city.
Who made this? I made a lot of stuff, but I haven't made it. That's beautiful.
Isn't it?
Some genius.
Oh,
Yeah.
It gets you hyped, doesn't it?
Yeah, it gave me a couple of ideas because I haven't heard that reading before. I've heard part of it from Tolkien before.
Sometimes it's good not to be on camera. I can tell you that.
Yeah. Wow.
Just chills though.
There's several ways that could go.
Yeah. That's
so
beautiful.
that recording Salty was on earlier, and he had said it was that's from a record, I guess, that it's been released that he knows of. So he'd be a good guy to ask about where to find that. But yeah
cool. No, it's like I did a video where we made the first part where we did the ride to Gondor. If y'all saw that, but we interwove it with Tolkien reading that last line and the charge. But this blows it away. This is beautiful.
Yeah, little does Loki know that his microphone was on though when I recorded it.
Got him.
Yeah, it's a beautiful film. Beautiful film. Yeah, it's wonderful. What Jackson can do. What I'm curious is I really was waiting. I can't stand the fact that the estate run by Simon Tolkien, hates Peter Jackson. But even though it was Christopher who started that mess, which I think if Christopher were alive today and he saw what Rings had happened to Rings, he would have been like, oh, sorry, I made a boo-boo with Peter Jackson. But I always wanted Peter Jackson to finish it, to do the Silmarillion, to go into the unfinished tales.
Who else would you trust really with this? Yeah.
Well, who would I trust? And I don't know why names lately. I've been forgetting the guy who did the closest one I could think of is who did Dune and who did
Denis Villeneuve.
Denis Villeneuve.
Yeah, I would trust him. I would trust him with this because if you can tell the attention to detail and the passion that he brings in his projects. I don't like all of his stuff, but if he's into it, he has a vision that I think would work well. I think that would work well. But see, for a project like this, you have to have buy-in. Like when you listen to Viggo Mortensen talk about after he got the role, when he explained that he didn't know anything about Tolkien. When he got on that plane, he bought the books. And by the time he had landed in New Zealand, he had devoured one of them. He's like, okay, this is like my childhood. Because he's from, I believe, Argentina, and he had read a lot of the Viking mythos, the North mythos, and he's like, he really gobbled it up. And think about it, he's very, very left of center. But he says, when you take a role, it's about the character, the story. You leave all your politics out of it. And that whole cast did it. They were engulfed by the beauty of Tolkien, so they tried to honor it. So whoever you would get, it would have to be real. Like I even would take a half-ass actor and a half-ass director who had 100% love and vision, because I think they could pull it off. But you can't just treat it like it's just, okay, it's a paycheck, a job. I don't think so.
Well, Loki said it earlier too. You just reiterated it, but it's love, and when you love something, like when the people who made these films, they loved them to the point where it's when you love something, you're not worried about offending other people with that love. Right. So you just make it based purely on that, and you're not concerned about people who might be upset by what you're doing because love is above that. And I've got a clip here for Loki that I thought he might enjoy.
Let this be the hour when we draw swords together.
Yes!
Fell deeds awake.
Now for wrath, now for ruin, and the red dawn.
Yeah.
Then they touched tips.
Yeah, they drew their swords and they crossed streams.
Yeah, they crossed the stream.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And I like the fact that Bernard came out and said, yeah, I didn't watch it. Rings.
Yeah, that was amazing that he did that. And finally, someone actually answered the question and wasn't worried about how it's going to affect his career. He just told us what we all know. It's trash.
Yeah, it's trash and a cash grab. So that was beautiful. Yeah, I love theater. In War of the Rohirrim, it's the actress who played Éowyn who's going to be narrating it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're going to use Éowyn as the narrator, the actual character. They wanted to have that touchstone between the films and the new one. And Brian Cox, who's a brilliant actor, is actually going to play Helm Hammerhand. And I'm like,
that's
wow.
Cool.
Oh, wow.
I love Brian Cox.
And Peter Jackson.
Great actor.
He is. I haven't seen that show, though, that everybody talked about, his last one.
Succession.
I've never seen it. I have to.
He's great in it.
Is he? Of course. It's Brian Cox. I started following him when he did Rob Roy with Liam Neeson.
He also makes an appearance in Braveheart momentarily.
He does.
He's Argyle.
Uncle Argyle.
Yeah.
Brilliant actor.
Now, I think the only way you can top potentially the films, I don't even know if you could top them, you might come close to it, is if you do an accurate animated adaptation. I think that's the only way you can do it now, because I think to get that epicness of a scale, I think you get too many execs involved if you're gonna try to touch Jackson's works. I have no confidence in it.
Did you say top it though? I'm not even sure that.
I don't think but I'm saying like get close.
Match it, maybe.
Yeah. I think animation is the way to go, and I'm all for animation.